And for those of you who are wondering where the heck I am, I'm in my son's closet. I'm down in Los Angeles babysitting for my 3 grandchildren, one who is 8 months and a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. And the crown is compliments of Titi, who is 3. As I was coming downstairs, she handed it to me and said, "You need this pie." She calls me Pie. So I'm assuming there's some reason that I have this tiara on my head. Anyway, it's beautiful to be with all of you. And my daughter is upstairs managing the 3 little Indians so that I could be down here in the closet and experience Sunday morning with my favorite church, which is Unity of Santa Rosa. It's so great to be with all of you. So I was contemplating what would be a good topic for Sunday. And what came to me was, we're in such a transitional time right now. And I thought, Jesus has some amazing teachings for us. And oftentimes we hear them and we don't really anchor in how they apply to our everyday life. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to begin by sharing from Matthew. And I think all of us who are Bible people at all have heard some of these statements of Jesus as part of the Sermon on the Mount. And it's interesting because the very end of this whole chapter of Matthew, this is so important, because all of those who are listening to him said to this: when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teachings, because he taught as one who had authority and not as the teachers of the law. And I just want to preface what we're going to be looking at, because I think so often we get caught up in what is the law and what might be the law in our own minds trips us up. And we end up finding ourselves literally acting like the Pharisees, who were by the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. So 2 things we're going to look at that are part of Matthew. And I'm going to be looking mainly between chapter 5 and chapter 7 of Matthew. The first thing I'd like to share with us is the quote from Matthew 5, which is, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." So just put a little point around measure, how we measure when we're in that state, when we feel we need to judge. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Let me take that speck out of your eye," when there at the same time is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Such a beautiful metaphoric teaching for all of us about the things we hold in our own consciousness or in our own visual field that don't allow us to see what is really truly there. There's a lot more incredible things to share about judgment in that particular chapter, but I just want to highlight one more thing in chapter 5, where Jesus says, "Settle matters quickly with your adversary." And you might think that someone that you judge is your adversary. You might look at it in that way, but we're going to expand that awareness today. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. So just be aware of how we can get ourselves thrown in prison when we don't settle matters quickly with our adversary. I think I'm going to stop there now I guess I'll go into worry, and then we'll just talk about it all. In chapter 6, Jesus is talking about worry, and this is something I think most of us have heard, probably even our kids have heard this. "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear? Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grasses of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his righteousness and his kingdom, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I totally love that last sentence. I so wish we were in a room together, because I'd love to interact with all of you on this. It would be really, really fun. Anyway, I want to just kind of unpack some of these things, because I think Jesus has given us such a gift to really focus on two areas of our mental, emotional field that can often get trapped. One is that we can get trapped in judgment, which for me is very often about the past. We can get trapped in our thinking about a situation that happened and how we'd like to have it different. We can getting trapped in our thinking about a particular person and how they think they acted toward us. They might have said something that hurt our feelings. They might have done something that we didn't think was appropriate. They might not have, at some level, respected us, or they may have somehow ignored us in some way. And if we don't stop ourselves when we're in that time of measuring, remember how Jesus talks about the measure that we use. When we're in a situation where we begin to measure someone else against our own yardstick, and we put them in that box that we call judgment, we've already moved them out of a place where we can connect to them at some level. And it's really important for us to begin to see this in our life, because for most of us, when we do this in a particular relationship, we close down the possibility of connection with the person. Slowly over time, we begin to add more labels to that box that we've put them in. Think about it in your life in terms of how we tend to focus on the differences in other people from ourselves. We tend to see, instead of see the similarities of someone, we see and look at the differences. And then we begin to create a whole kind of a mental picture of what those differences mean. We might put a label on it and say, oh, this person has more money than I do. Well, if we have some pattern in our life that says people who have money are somehow greedy, or people who have money have somehow cheated to get their money, or people who have money should give the money to me, or people who have money shouldn't have that much because there are other people in the world who are starving. If we do that, we begin to start putting labels on people that may not be the truth about that particular individual at all. And this is just what Jesus is saying to us when he's talking to us about do not judge lest ye be judged. Because when we start doing this, when we start mentally comparing ourselves to other people and then putting them into a particular place, what have we done? We've done the same thing about ourselves. We've put ourselves in a box as well. We've put ourselves in a box about who we are and how right we are And also, we've limited the way we are able to see and to connect and to relate to the other. We relate through our own discomfort, perhaps, or we relate through the hurt we may have had in a situation with somebody completely different than the person we've labeled. This is why it's so important for us to begin to see how we have such a quick capacity in consciousness to judge other people and to create a box and a limiting perception around other people. And when we do that, we've anchored ourselves energetically into the past. We cannot be present with the other. And I'm talking about this in terms of relationship, but I think it's a really important way to look at the experience of being present. I think that presence and living in the presence and living in the present is about being connected. It's being connected to ourselves. It's being connected to higher consciousness, as the beautiful prayer that Meg gave us this morning. It's connecting into the Christ consciousness, the divinity that's within each one of us. And when we're able to do that connection to higher consciousness and to connect into ourselves and to see that how perhaps the judgment we have created with what we think is our adversary is simply something we're telling ourselves that may or may not be true. So when Jesus is saying, agree with your adversary, he's inviting us to take a look at what the story is that we've created. Is this really the truth? Is this really true about this other person? Or am I able to seek the righteousness, to seek right thinking, to seek the kingdom? Am I able to be in the present moment, in this moment with this particular person, with this particular experience, so that I may feel the fullness of what's happening in the moment, instead of bringing in all of my theories about why this person needs to change, or my other great wisdom about what I can tell this person in order that they will figure their life out perfectly. Am I able to put aside all of this measuring that I've created and simply connect? And am I able to connect in the present moment from a place of peacefulness, a place of calm, a place of willingness to listen and be open to what is before me in terms of the person that is fully present in the moment with me? What I know from my own experience is that when I've created a judgment around someone, I bring that judgment right into the relationship. And instead of being present to listen to the other person, my mind is very active, trying to figure something out, trying to change them, trying to figure out what I should say to make them suit what I need. I'm basically in a very self-centered place. And I'm clearly not living in the spirit of the law that Jesus teaches us. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Agree with your adversary quickly. Be present at the altar whenever you're present to your brothers and sisters. And seek first the kingdom, which is the present moment. The kingdom is the present moment. When Jesus is asking us to seek the kingdom, he's not talking about some heaven when we die. He's talking about seek an experience of the present moment to feel and to know how connected you are to whatever is there, especially in the relationships that we have. So this is such a beautiful and a powerful teaching for us, that we can begin to move away from our need to see the differences in others, move away from our need to judge, or if we do judge, to have awareness of it. To have awareness of it. I have a little practice that I use, and I often teach it in some of my classes, and it's kindergarten, it's ABC. And it's A is for awareness. It's like, oh, I'm going to spend some time with my granddaughter. I need to be in awareness rather than having my own agenda about how she needs to be in this moment. I just need to be aware what's going on in the present moment. Can I set aside whatever my desire is for how she's supposed to show up and just be present to her? The second thing, AB, is to take a deep breath, to pause for a moment and just present to the present moment so I can actually listen and feel what's happening inside her. Sometimes there's just a veil of tears and I'm sitting in front of that. And, I would really wish that weren't happening. And I could create all sorts of stories about why she shouldn't be crying or why she is crying. But the best thing I can do is just be aware, take a deep breath, and then move into C, which is connection. And connection is all about being in the present moment, in the presence of higher consciousness, when I'm not carrying any of those needs to judge somebody and make them different, or conversely, moving into some chaotic experience about what's going to happen in the future. And that's the other piece that I thought, Jesus is giving us such an amazing teaching. I love the last line that he says, where he says, "Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Well, I think that's kind of an interesting little saying that Jesus gave us about each day has enough trouble of its own. And I think if you look at your life and you really, really looked at what Jesus is saying, you'd find, yeah, I think there is. I've got enough going on today that I can be fully present to. Why would I want to bring more that doesn't exist yet? All it is my mind creating some chaos about what hasn't happened yet. It's like I'm making up a movie about something that hasn't happened yet, pulling it into the present and trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. In India, they teach us about this. They call it created problems. The mind makes up created problems, trying to solve things that we worry about that don't exist yet. And so using Jesus's wisdom is such a powerful gift for us. And we can do the same thing, ABC, when we start worrying. I remember I had a teacher who always used to say, worry is another form of prayer. And we know that what we pray for comes about. We hold it in consciousness, don't we? We're holding it up there. We're creating mental pictures. We're praying for the things that we desire in our life, for healthy bodies. We're praying for beautiful, holy and healthy and loving relationships. We're praying for health in the world, in our communities, in our church. We're praying to be able to get back into the beautiful building that is Unity of Santa Rosa. And we're seeing ourselves seated in those seats. But if at the same time, we've decided to project some problems about that and start thinking about all the things that might happen and bring those into the story and create big pictures about it, just like our prayer will manifest what will happen. Our worry becomes a prayer that gets planted in consciousness and anchored in universal consciousness, and it starts out picturing for us. So it's a powerful thing for us to be aware, not only of what we put out there that doesn't exist already, and to pull ourselves back and have awareness. What is the disturbance inside me that's causing me to move out of this present moment and create this inner disturbance to make a problem out in the future that I need to mentally try to solve? What's going on inside myself? Most of the time, we find that there's an inner disturbance that's going on. And you see, this is what Jesus tells us these great stories, and he tells us the story as if it's someone else. Like the story about the man who wants to take that little tiny speck out of his friend's eye. Jesus isn't really talking about two people here. Jesus is talking about what's going on inside of us. We're trying to find something tiny that's wrong with someone else when we haven't even looked at what's going on inside of ourselves. We haven't seen the hurt that's inside of ourselves. We haven't seen the issue of unforgiveness that's inside of ourselves. We haven't seen the way we try to control other people. We haven't seen the way we worry when we tell somebody else to stop worrying. So it's really powerful for us to listen to the message that Jesus has given us in this incredible Sermon on the Mount. I mean, we could spend a whole year just taking a section from this Matthew and really dissecting it, but knowing all the time that the message is for us to look inside ourselves. Judge not, lest ye be judged. What is it going on inside of me? Where have I created some sort of self-centered prophecy that makes me the judge and jury, that I'm measuring the rest of the world? And when I'm willing to look and see what that is inside me, to have awareness and to take a breath, to just stop for a minute and to be present in the moment to whatever is going on, I can move into a freedom that's not there when I'm not able to agree with that adversary. If I don't agree with the adversary, what happens? Jesus tells us right away. We can end up in prison. And what is prison? Prison is limited living. It's a limited vision. It's limited mental thinking, and it's limited living. It puts us in a very small kingdom at the very top of the tower without any way to get down. So I invite all of us to really move into this awareness that Jesus has given us of being able to notice when we're judging someone else and see what's going on inside of us and allow ourselves to be present to the presence, to seek first the kingdom, to seek that present living moment, that living with the presence of the divine moment and the right thinking, the right connection that we have with the divine. And when we do that, we're not projecting out into the future something that we don't want, something that we're frightened of, when we can have faith that the present moment is absolutely perfect the way it is. And when we're in that place, it doesn't mean that we don't take action. I'm never saying that. What I do know is that when we've gotten into this place of deep connection in the present moment, whatever it is that's called forth from us, whether it's to take action, to correct something that's not happening properly, to say something that needs to be spoken, when it's coming from that present moment place, it doesn't have the tone of judgment, of criticism, of resentment that can often come when we're when we're judging others, or the sense of complaint, blame, worry, shame, disconnection that happens when we're worrying. When we're in the present moment, there's a quality of taking spiritual right action that can happen to us. So let's take a moment and just go into a brief meditation. Just invite you to close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath, filling the lungs and taking that breath all the way down into your belly. Just filling your belly and your lungs with nice deep inhalation and slowly exhaling. And again, a deep breath. The living spirit, the spiritus of the breath, it brings us into a presence in the body. And one more breath. I invite you to take a moment to just bring into your awareness a person that you care for deeply. Could be a partner, a husband, a child, a sister, a friend, somebody that you really care about. And take a moment and notice that you have a little bit of judgment about this person. Maybe there's something that you would like to change about them. Maybe they have a habit that really annoys you. It could be just a little thing, or maybe it's a big resentment. Just take a moment and be aware of what it is. And look at that outside of the experience of the person. Just see it as somebody else is doing it. And now look at it inside yourself. See if it's something that maybe you do. Even if it's not the same annoying habit, notice that you might do something that annoys other people. Just be aware of that. And take out your measuring stick and see how you want to measure whatever it is you're judging about this person. Is this just really, does this get a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10? Is something that you really want to pay a lot of attention to and really pull out every time you see this person? Maybe there's a name you're giving them. Oh, this person is so selfish, or oh, they're never thinking about me. They're so disrespectful. I wish they wouldn't do that every time we sit down at the table. Just notice, is this a really big problem? Or can you bring your measuring stick back a little bit and just make it, oh, this is part of what this person does. And sometimes I do it too. And as you pull that back, bring your attention to bring that person right in front of you, and just in your mind's eye, see them in front of you. And take a nice deep breath. And as you exhale, just kind of say to yourself how you feel connected to this person. And maybe the next time you're connected to them, whether it's in person or by the phone, whatever that little thing is that you judge them might seem less annoying, less problematic. And now offer gratitude for that relationship, and take a moment and notice if you have a worry in your life. Is there something you're worrying about? Could be a worry about yourself. It could be a worry about a family member. Could be about health. Could be about finances. Could be a worry about the church. Worry about your job. Just notice what you spin about this. Are you toiling and spinning? Notice the stories you might be telling yourself about this. How hard it is, how this is never going to work out, how I don't know how I'm going to do it, how are they going to do it, what's going to happen. Just notice how worry loves to spin. And now take a nice deep breath and pull your worry back. Take a nice deep breath and just be aware that all those things that you were worrying about are not happening right now. Take a nice deep breath. And bring your attention to your heart and connect in with the presence of the divine, your God life, your higher consciousness. Connect in with the Christ light, that divine light that indwells you in every moment. That light that brought you here this morning. Feel that light in your heart. Know that this is the kingdom, that we're living in the kingdom in this moment. And as you connect in, feel the presence of everyone in our family and our church family today. Feel the joy in that connection that you have made by being a part of Unity of Santa Rosa and by connecting in with the present moment. And gently, as you are ready, take another deep breath and awareness of this beautiful present moment, of the breath that centers you into a deep connection as you live in the present moment with the presence of the divine. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the rest of our beautiful family. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Let's always be in awareness, take a deep breath, and connect with the presence within and without. And so it is.